Hi, my name's Eleanor, so you might recognise me from doing the PR classes. So I'm one of the therapy assistants at Gloucester Respiratory Team. So I'm just going to run through how we do some of our exercises in the class so that you can add in doing the exercises at home. So we do twice a week with me in PR, the classes, the online ones. And it's good to add a third one in at home a week, so you can use this video to help you follow the exercises, how we would do them in the class. So what we would start with is a warm-up. So if I take you through the warm-up in real time, then you're just going to follow through with what I'm doing. So to start with, what we're going to do is a seated march. So we're just going to start by marching in our seat and swinging our arms as well. So all we're going to do is march for about 30 seconds, and our warm-up is just to get our heart rate up a little bit and our breathing rate and getting our body ready to exercise. Okay, so when we're finished with that one, the next move that we're going to do is a few stretches. So what we're going to do is have a look towards the wall one way, to the middle, and back the other way, and back to the middle. And we're going to keep going. And two more. Okay, and then back to the middle. And next we're just going to have a roll of our shoulders. So we're going to come forwards. And then the same but backwards. And then just relaxing our shoulders. So next move, we're going to do a twist and feeling it in our back. So we're going to twist one way, following with our arm and head, and twisting the other way. And then we're just going to repeat this movement. So a few more reps. Last one. And back to the centre. And so the next one, we're going to have our hands down by our sides, and we're just going to have a lean towards the floor, to the middle, and the other way. And keep going. Two more. Okay, and back to the centre. So for the next bit, if you want to stand up and if you feel like you normally do the exercises mostly in standing, then I'd recommend standing for the next bit. If you're someone that does the exercises normally in seated, then you can stay sitting. So I'm going to show you in standing. So I'll move the chair out of the way. So we'll just start with a march. Okay, and we're going to keep our feet moving, but we're going to reach forward with both arms, so just punching forwards. Try and keep that march going. Good, and then we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to switch our arms and do some arm bends now. And same again, just keeping our feet moving if we can. So you should start to feel a little bit warmer now. Okay, and then just back to our normal march. So for the last bit of our warm-up, what we're going to do is make our movement a bit bigger on my count of 5. So we're going to make the movement bigger by lifting our knees higher and swinging our arms a little bit more. So on my count of 5, we'll make that movement bigger. 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then we're going to go back to that small movement. And in a few more seconds, we're going to do that again. So we'll do it again on my count, so we'll make it bigger. 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And back to little. So when you're ready, if you just slowly come to a stop, so that'll complete the warm-up. So if you've followed along, then you've done your warm-up. So hopefully we're feeling a bit warmer and our breathing rate's up a little bit and our heart rate, and we're feeling ready to exercise. So if you feel like you need a little bit of a break, you can pause this video here, but I'm going to go straight on and show you what we're going to do for our main exercises now. So with our main exercises, as you know if you've done our sessions, they're going to be 5 aerobic exercises where we're thinking about our breathing and how breathless we are, and then we're going to do 4 strengthening exercises. So I'll show you your 5 aerobic exercises first. So as I said, we're going to think about our breathing and thinking about that Borg scale that I've probably gone on about to you already. So we're going to think about being a 3 to 4 on our Borg scale throughout all the 5 aerobic exercises. So what that means is you're going to want to try and be moderately to somewhat severely breathless when we're doing those exercises. If you feel like you're getting severely breathless and beyond somewhat severe, give yourself a little break, and that's fine. Then you can carry on when you're feeling ready. But the opposite, if you're only feeling slightly breathless, you can progress the exercise a little bit more, and I will show you how we can progress them. So what they'll be is there'll be different times depending on how far along the course you are. So they'll be in the description below. So if you're not sure how long you need to be timing yourself for when we're doing the aerobic exercises, have a little look below, depending on what week you're on. So what I'm going to do is demonstrate each exercise to you, and then you can pause the video and time yourself for however long you need to, as I said, depending on how far along you are in the course. So for example, if you're on week 1, you'll be timing yourself for 2 minutes per exercise. So the first exercise we'll do is our march. So what I'll do is I'll demonstrate that to you now. So our marching is pretty self-explanatory, as we know. So if we are doing our exercise in standing, what we're going to do is march on the spot. So the most simplest way, we'll just be marching on the spot, like we've just done in our warm-up. So if you feel like you're doing this when you're only slightly breathless, to progress this exercise, what we would do is just make it bigger, or you can also speed it up a little bit as well if you want to progress it on and you don't feel like you're getting too breathless. The other way we can do it is if we feel like we're really breathless or it's going to just be too much for us in standing, we can do it in sitting. So how we would do this one is exactly the same way, but we're going to be sat in our chair, so we're just going to be doing our seated march like this. Okay, so if you want to pause this video here now, and then you can time yourself and do your first exercise. So what we're going to do next is, hopefully you've paused the video and you've done your first one. Next one is our side step to front punch. So what we're going to do with this one is I'll demonstrate the next one for you. If I move the chair away for now. So again, if you're doing your exercises mainly in standing, this is what we do for this one. So what we're going to do is step out to one side and then punch twice forwards. And we're going to step out to the opposite side and punch twice forwards. And we're just going to keep that movement going. So with this movement, it's quite important to try and pace yourself through it and find a rhythm that kind of works for you, so you don't have to be copy how anyone else is doing it. Just finding your own rhythm that works. If you wanted to progress this exercise, if you're finding that you're only slightly breathless when you're doing it like this, what we can do is lunge out to the side a little bit further. So we'd be kind of lunging out before doing our punches and lunging out a little bit further. Or the other thing you can do is speed it up as well, so you can do it a little bit quicker to make to up your breathing rate. And if again you feel that it's too much in standing, which is fine, we would do this one in seated. So what we're going to do for this one in seated is the same. So we're going to bring both of our legs stepping out to the side and then punching twice. And stepping out to the side and punching twice. So again, if you need to kind of slow this down at all, if you feel really breathless, then that's fine as well. Just finding a pace that works for you. So that's that one. So if you want to pause this video now and time yourself for your second exercise before I move on to the third one. So for our third exercise, what we'll do is our star jacks. So it's kind of like a modified star jump without the jump. So what we're going to do is, if we're in standing, we want our leg to come out to the side with our arm at the same time. So our leg is going to come out and our arm's going to come out just to shoulder height. And then we're going to bring our leg back in. Same again the other side. And bringing our legs and arms back in. We're going to bring it out and in. So with this one, same again. If we wanted to progress it, we could go a bit quicker. Or we could transfer more of our weight onto the leg that you're bringing out and make it a lunge to the side. Or we can just toe tap out to the side, which is going to make it a little bit easier. So that's how we do it if we're in standing. If we're someone that does it seated, what we would do is we're still going to bring our leg and arm out. So we're going to bring leg, arm out to the side, same the other side. So similar kind of thing, but we're just in sitting position. Okay, so that is kind of how we'd do our star jacks. So if you need to slow them down, if you're feeling really breathless or have a break, then do that. Or speed them up or transfer a bit more weight onto that leg if you want to progress the exercise. So if you pause this one here and time yourself and do your third exercise. Okay, so hopefully you've finished your third exercise now. So fourth one, our penultimate aerobic exercise that will be timed, is our knee through exercise. So with this one, if we're standing, we preferably want something in front of us, kind of about waist height, that's going to help us balance mainly. So with this one, what our starting position would be, we want one leg in front and another leg behind. And our leg that's behind is going to come through, drive through and up. So we're going to start on just doing it on one leg. So we're going to drive through and up. Okay, so what we do for this one is we do half the time on one leg and then we switch halfway through and do half the time on the other leg. Okay, and that's how we do it in kind of the middle form. So if we wanted to progress that a bit more, and you feel only if you feel balanced to do so, then what we would do in our standing position is we could add some arms in. Again, only if you feel balanced enough. So with our leg that's behind, we're going to come up and through, with our arms coming down at the same time. And then we would switch legs when we're halfway through the time. Okay. If we're in sitting for this one, similar kind of thing to how I just showed you in standing. So we're going to add our arms in at the same time. So if we're starting on this leg, what we're going to do is bring our arms in front of us. As our arms come down, our leg comes up. So it might be a bit tricky to get the kind of coordination at first with this one, but hopefully once you're in the rhythm it gets a bit easier. And then, as I said, once you're halfway through, so if you're doing it for 2 minutes, we'd do 1 minute on each leg, so you'd have to keep an eye on your time, and then you'd be switching your legs once you're halfway through. So that is kind of the 4th exercise. So if you pause your video here and time yourself through the 4th exercise. Okay, so hopefully you've done your 4th exercise. So the 5th one we're going to do is our punch with a twist. So hopefully we'll kind of remember these from doing it with me or another therapy assistant. So this one, if we're in standing, we've got to think about our feet. So we want one foot in front of the other, and we're going to have our hands up ready to bring a punch across. So what we're going to do, our leg that's behind is our arm that's going to punch with. So again, with this one, same thing, we're going to do half the time on one arm and then half the time on the other arm. So punch with a twist, what we're going to do, this leg's behind, so this arm's going to punch forwards and round. So you're kind of punching diagonally and trying to keep our arm at shoulder height. Really punching our arm out so it's nice and straight before we're bringing it back in. Okay? And then just bringing it back in. And then the same again, the other side, just making sure we've switched our feet round. Again, if you want to progress this one, then it would just be kind of speeding it up a bit, really trying to drive your punch through and round. If we want to do it in seated, that's easier. We don't need to worry about our feet at all. So what we're going to do is exactly the same. We're going to punch and come round. And then once we were halfway through our time, we switch our arms. So we don't have to think about our feet at all if we're seated. So that's all of the aerobic exercises that we'll go through. If you give yourself a little bit of a break before we start our strengthening exercises, so you can pause this video and give yourself a break kind of whenever you need to in the video really. But if you want a bit of a break before we start our strengthening exercises, then pause this video before I move on to them. So for our strengthening exercises, there's 4 strengthening exercises. What we're going to do is we don't need to worry about timing them or anything. So we're going to do 3 sets of 10 of all of the strengthening exercises, and that's an aim. So if we can only manage 6, then that's absolutely fine. But just try and do what you can manage. So with this one, if we're thinking about kind of a scale, and 10 is the heaviest it can be, we want them to feel about a 7 out of 10 heavy by the time we're getting towards the end of our repetitions. So if you are doing 10 repetitions 3 times, make sure we do have a break after every 10 repetitions and don't just do 30 in a row. So, first one that we're going to do is our sit to stand for our strengthening exercise. So as I said, these ones are in your own time, so you don't need to time yourself or anything. And we'd aim to do 10 sit to stands. So what we're going to do is sit to stand, so it's kind of what it says it is. So we'll start sitting, and then we're going to stand all the way up if we can, and back down. And when our bum hits the seat, that counts as 1. So we could keep going and do 10 if we can, and you can take your time. So if you need to with this one, you can use your arms to help you if you had a chair with arms, and you could kind of push yourself up using your arms. If you can't quite stand all the way up, you can do a half sit to stand. So what we do with this one is we'd use our kind of arms, but we want to be pushing through our legs as much as we can, and we just come about halfway up and sitting back down. Okay. So if we are standing all the way up, and we can do 10, and we feel like after we've done 10 we could just keep going, what we would do then is add one of our resistance bands in. So with our strengthening exercises, we need to make sure we've got these handy. So only add a resistance band into our sit to stand if we feel like we can do 10 full sit to stands and you feel like you could keep going. So that means that it's probably not heavy enough for you and you need to add a bit of resistance. So if you did add a resistance band into your sit to stand, what you'd do is you'd hold your resistance band at the end, so hold it nice and tight at each end. And then what we would do is stand on our resistance band so both feet are stood onto it, and we're holding on each side. And with our sit to stand, what we do is stand all the way up, keeping our arms nice and straight so we're held onto our resistance band. So we do exactly the same movement, but we've just got a resistance band in our arm. Okay, so that's kind of all the different ways that we could do that sit to stand. So choose one that works for you and that feels a 7 out of 10 heavy, as I said before. Next exercise, so if you pause, I'll show you the next exercise now, so if you want to pause this video now and go through your 3 sets of 10 of the sit to stands if you can. So our next exercise would be our bicep bend. So most people can add a resistance band into this one. So I'll just mention as well, with your resistance band, the colour kind of depends how much resistance that you'll get with your resistance band. So if you've got a yellow, then that is a light resistance. A red band is medium, green is heavy, blue is extra heavy, and then black is kind of the heaviest one. So you might have different colours, you won't have all the colours, so just choose the one that works best for you. If you feel like you need a heavier resistance band and want to challenge yourself, then let us know and we can send you one. So as we were saying, with our bicep bends, what we would do with this one, so we can do it seated or standing. So I'll show you in seated first. We're going to stand on it the exact same way as we would have if we were doing our sit to stand with a resistance band. So we want both feet stood and holding our resistance band in each arm. With our bicep bends, it's really important to keep our arms nice and straight to start with, and our elbows tucked into our waists at all times. So my arms are nice and straight, and I'm going to bend them up all the way and then back down again. So with all of our strengthening exercises, it's really important to have a slow and controlled movement, and that's how we're going to build strength in our muscles. So we don't want our arms to flop back down when we're doing them. If we want to do this one in standing, it's going to work our core a little bit more, but it will still work our same bicep muscles. So we can do it in standing as well, and it will be exactly the same, keeping our elbows nice and tucked in, and a nice slow controlled movement. Palms facing up at all times. Okay? So again, if you want to pause this video here and do your bicep bends, aiming for 3 sets of 10. So our penultimate exercise is our squat to heel raise. So this one is best done in standing. We can do it in sitting, which I'll show you, but sometimes people find it easier in standing anyway. So what we'll do with this one is we want something in front of us for balance. So I've got the chair here, something about waist height is perfect. And we want our feet about shoulder width apart, nice and flat to the ground. So with our squat, what we're going to do is come down as far as is comfortable. And when we're coming down, imagine that you're sitting onto a chair and there's a seat behind you, so we want our weight to be placed backwards. So I'm going to come down as far as is comfortable, and then I'm pushing up with nice flat feet, weight through my heels. Once I'm up, I'm going to come onto my toes, which is the heel raise part. So full movement together would look like this. So I'm going to come down as far as comfortable, pushing up onto my toes and back. So that would count as 1, and then 2, and so on. So that's how we would do it standing. So it's good to try and have a go at this one standing if you can. If we're struggling, we can do it seated as well. So what we would do with this one seated is we start with our half sit to stand, which we which I showed you beforehand. So our half sit to stand, coming down, and then onto our toes, so we're going to add our heel raise in. Okay? And then onto our toes. So that would be how we would do it sitting. So if you pause the video here and do your 3 sets of 10, what we're going to do is, we've got one more exercise to go, so pause the video now. Okay, so our last exercise is an upper body one. It's going to work our shoulders. So it's a lateral raise or a side raise. So we're going to have our resistance band. And what we can do is stand on it in the exact same way. So I'll show you seated first of all. So this one we can do standard or seated as normal. We're going to hold our resistance band exactly the same way as we did for our bicep bends. So make sure we're stood on it so it doesn't pop out or anything. And what we're going to do with this one is both arms are going to come out at the same time, and they're going to just go to shoulder height and back down. Okay. If you can't quite get to shoulder height with this one, that's absolutely fine. Go to where you can, and then just coming back down. So the same thing if we're standing, exactly the same, so just up to shoulder height and back down. So the same again, just a nice and controlled movement. We don't want our arms to flop back down on this one, and we want our palms to be facing the floor at all times. So if you pause the video here and just go through your 3 sets of 10 of that one. Okay, so hopefully you've completed all of your exercises now, so there's 9 exercises altogether. So just to end, what we would do is just a cool down. So I'll just take you through our cool down now. If you've been doing your exercises mostly in standing, I'd recommend starting standing for our cool down. So I'll start standing. If you've been doing them in seated, then just stay seated for the cool down as well. So all we would do is start with our march for our cool down. Okay, just a normal march. And we're going to make that movement a little bit smaller. So our cool down, what we're doing is bringing down our heart rate and breathing rate and just recovering our body from our exercise. And then we're going to make our movement even smaller so our feet aren't leaving the floor. Okay. And then when we're ready, if we just come to a stop, and if we're standing, then we can take a seat. So next, what we're going to do is just recover a bit of our ankles. So we're just going to come up onto our toes and heels and do about 10 repetitions. Last one. And then just relaxing our feet. And then we'll just end on a few stretches. So what we'll do is put our rear to shoulder. And then the opposite way. Good, and then just have a roll of our shoulders. And the opposite way. And next we're going to stretch out our chest, so we want to put our hands into the small of our backs, pushing our shoulders back and looking ahead of us. And then leaving our hands down by our sides, we're going to have a lean towards the floor and just holding it there. And the same on the other side. And then sitting back up straight. Last one, we're just going to stretch out our legs. So we want one leg bent with our hands onto our bent knee and the other leg straight out in front of us. And we're going to have a lean forwards, and we should feel a stretch at the back of our leg in our hamstring. And then we'll do the same on the other side, so opposite leg in the straight. Okay, and then you can sit back into our chair and relax now. So that is everything that we'll go through today. So as I said, just adding this in once a week as well as our 2 PR sessions is ideal.